Welcome to the Blend Podcast.
Hey there, and welcome to the Blend Podcast. Today we're going to speak to Angie Ferguson from the Perth Autism Support. This was recorded in the shop, so apologies for some of the background noise and the sound quality not being great, but it was the only space we can find that was safe and socially distanced, and hopefully also give you a slightly more authentic sense of the conversation we had at the cafe. So gather around the campfire and have a listen. Welcome to the Blend Podcast, Angie.
Thank you.
Really lovely to have you here, and trying to get used to all these technical things right now. So thanks for being patient. And tell us, how do you like your coffee?
Oh, well, strong.
Strong.
And it actually depends. I'm quite a flip-flopper with coffee. I don't really have a single thing that I do. When I'm working, though, it's black and it's strong and it's no messing.
No messing.
But if it's out with coffee for friends, bit more sweeter, caramel latte, vanilla latte.
Little treats, the other addictions kick in,
yes,
you know?
Absolutely.
No, and you've been coming to us almost right from the beginning?
Yeah. You guys opened, gosh, not long after we moved into the building up the street, so yes.
You know, I've always said, actually, and shared that the Autism Centre has been part of our journey, you know? I think when we started, you were never in our business plan, but we realized very soon that you guys were next door and all these parents were just waiting outside with kids, and we sort of say, well, come in and have a coffee. Or
Absolutely, and I think that what's been lovely has been that community feel around this bit of town now, because, you know, we're very, it's important to us that parents leave their young people with us so they get that independence and time away from mum and dad, which, you know, sometimes doesn't happen easily for our young people. So for the fact that, you know, we could say, you know, we've got them for an hour, but just go and have a chill and have a cup of coffee and meet other people and build a peer support network. So there's been so many additional things that we wouldn't necessarily have provided that, you know, having you guys on the corner has allowed us to do. So we
used to love seeing, I always remember seeing parents fall asleep on our couches, you know, and realize just how exhausted they were.
Absolutely.
And they used to be so embarrassed, you know, like, oh, I'm sorry I fell asleep. And you're like, no, it's okay, don't worry.
And I think just the point of having you guys so close as well for the young people. You know, we've had a lot of groups that we bring in here as part of their skill development and independence and getting out into the community. And to be able to do it in such an environment that's close by, it's familiar, they know it, they're with our staff, and it's just been a really lovely opportunity.
People are probably wondering, what do? You know, something to do with autism. So why don't you just explain your journey and what you do?
Yeah, okay, so Perth Autism Support is a charitable organisation. We are based in Market Street in Perth, and we deliver services throughout Perth and Kinross. So our outreach services go right up to Aberfeldy, Pitlochry, right down to Kinross. And we provide support for autistic children and young people aged 18 and under, but also provide a full family support. So we've got different areas of service that are not just about the young people. So we have family support, we have our school liaison service, and actually a lot of what we do is about training and raising awareness. So we actually train nationally across Scotland for employers, for third sector organisations, for statutory organisations, health and education, just around understanding autism and kind of, rather than that just raising awareness of autism, but really accepting and knowing autism and being able to support, whether it's a young person in education or someone that's being supported in a community group, right through to employers who hopefully would see the strengths and benefits of employing an autistic individual.
Why? How did you get into this?
Okay, so that's probably my personal bit of the journey. So my son is 17 now, and he was diagnosed when he was 5 years old. And Matthew is a very stereotypical young person that we support at Perth Autism Support, in that he's very academically able, but really struggled, particularly when he was much younger, around social relationships and emotional regulation and being able to cope in situations that he found overwhelming. So as parents, we did the usual, trying to take him to lots of after school things, football, pubs, lots of things that just were an unmitigated disaster. And not for the reason that nobody wanted to help him. It's just because they didn't have the resourcing, the understanding, the training to be able to support him as effectively as he needed. So I guess I've probably always been described as a doer. I tend not to sit and have that kind of, oh, life is awful, and just moan about it. So, one night round the kitchen table, sat and spoke to my husband and said, well, do you know what? If there's nothing out there for kids, let's do it. Let's see what we can do.
Make it happen.
Yeah. I never, ever anticipated that PAS would be what it is now. We've got 860 young people registered with us now. And when I think back to those early days in 2012, and the first thing we ever did was an Easter holiday programme. Parents had to stay because we had no staff, we had no volunteers. So parents were with their young people, but it just started to create that community. And I think that's always been the important bit about PAS. It's been about the young people and it's been about the families, because actually I know what that's like. We're not a service that comes in and says, well, here's what you should be doing, or this is how you should be reacting to something, because everybody's journey is so individual. So it was really important that right from day one, it was about our families, it was about our young people, and that we created a community. And I guess that comes back to what we were saying about, the parents meeting here when their young people are with us. And, that peer support bit is so important. So it's not just about always professionals saying you must do, or here's the way that you should think. Sometimes you just need a shoulder, and you just need someone to stand next to you and go, get it,
So what does someone need to know? So someone's got a family member who's on the spectrum or is diagnosed. What is it that you think they need to know?
I think they need to know their young person, and that's so important. And that's probably the basis of all of our training, is really around, we can teach the theory of autism and we can teach the academics behind autism, and that all makes sense. But actually what people want to know is, if I've got a young person standing in front of me, what do I need to do to support them? And to really make sure that we, show their strengths, of which there are so many. And it's just about really pulling out that information. So yeah, just be intuitive, be instinctive. Parents know their young people better than anyone, So take time. Remember, you're not alone. Seek advice and information and support, and then just make the choices that are right for you and for your young person. And I think that's the most important bit.
And what you were speaking to yourself when Matthew was born. Mm-hmm. What is it? What was that thing that you wish someone had told you?
That it won't be how you imagine it to be. I think that when you have children, and particularly when you have that newborn in your arms, you have that idea of how you're going to bring your children up and what you envisage their future to be and what they're going to achieve in life. And I'm quite a goal-orientated person. I'm quite a reach for success person. So that was always in the plan. And then you kind of, it's almost like somebody says, well, wait a minute, we're going to take that away from you, and that's not what's going to happen. And you have to rethink everything. And you have to kind of be able to go, do you know what? It's going to be different, but it doesn't need to be less. It can still be, he's achieving amazingly. He's doing an amazing job. There have been massive bumps in the road. There have been massive challenges that perhaps someone with a non-autistic young person doesn't have to face. But every child, every parenting journey comes with its own challenges. It just looks different. So I guess probably my advice to any parent, actually, not just the ones with autistic young people, is just, try not to have it mapped out. because that map might change, and that's okay.
Is that a personal philosophy now?
It has been, yeah, definitely. I think particularly over the last 3 years, there have been a number of things that have happened personally with us, with Matthew and his autism journey. And Matthew was diagnosed with anxiety as well when he went into secondary school. So we had a huge journey of mental health awareness as well as the autism awareness. And then 3 years ago, over the last 3 years, I've had 2 cancer diagnoses as well.
Wow.
So, as a family, we've been on a big journey, and managing different situations that I guess you don't ever envisage that you'll be in, and managing Matthew's anxiety so he can achieve everything that he wants to achieve, because I guess he's like his mum, he's very goal orientated. He does want to achieve in life. He has huge goals. And actually it was about saying, well, how do we get past these barriers? And I think that probably the thing that I've learned over, the last 10 years probably, has been that barriers are put in place, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It can make you stronger, and it can make you look at things in a different way and change your priorities, which...
Oh, as a world, I suppose we've just gone through COVID and something just literally making us stop and change. I think in a world of such certainty, and we want certainties, and we feel in charge of, suddenly something comes in and takes away all of that. How did you cope with that? I mean, you seem ready for it, but what were your things?
I think COVID was it was tough. It was a tough road, and I think that for all of us, and I think that that's probably, we talk at PAS about, we've been coming back and talking about our recovery plans and all these kind of things, and actually what we keep coming back to is that the silver lining is, because there have been lots and lots of positives about it.
Things like what?
Things like it's given us the opportunity to rethink what we do. It's given us the space and time that we don't normally have in life, and certainly you're exactly the same as me. You're busy running a business, running organisations, and trying to take stock and think, actually, is this the best way? So I guess that's been my biggest silver lining, has been that we can't go back to the normal. We're going back to a new normal, but that new normal can be a little bit more dynamic, be a little bit more creative, a little bit more what we need it to be. And I think certainly from a work perspective, PAS has grown so astronomically huge over the last 9 years that we've just kind of gone with it, and we've developed and developed and developed, but we've not actually stopped and thought, where do we go here? Is this still the right thing?
What are we up to?
Yeah. So I guess that, personally it was tricky. I found it very difficult working from home. I found it very difficult having that that separation between work and home. And I think that part of my journey as the parent of an individual with additional support needs has been, work has always been my solace. It's been my escape, and it's been the place that I can put my brain somewhere else. Yeah. And that was a bit more challenging, being at home and trying to home educate and do all these other kind of things, so yeah.
I think I mean, the home education was a tough one. I struggled. My wife, saint, dealing with that, because I would have killed my child daily. How did you, what's your takeaway from it? Like, what are you bringing back from COVID?
I'm bringing back that we have to be ready for anything. We can't get stuck in the rut, because things can change so quickly. And I think that flexibility is key to that. And I guess there's also a bit that I've taken away about the importance of my team. And I think that the job that we do can be so emotionally draining, and not because we don't absolutely adore the young people that we work with, but just seeing the stress and anxiety and the challenges that some of our families go through takes its toll on the staff team. And actually, we often refer to ourselves as a PAS family, and that includes our young people and families as well as the staff team. And that's been really apparent through COVID. So that natural conversation that you would have in the office of, do you know, I've had a really tough day. Do you want to go for a walk around the block 5 minutes and just take it? You know, we've not had that. It's had to be, can I phone you to have this conversation? So that instinctive, intuitive conversation that we have as a staff team was taken away from us. So my takeaway is probably that my team are amazing. They're 110% committed to what they do, and that's never changed. But actually, they support each other as well as the young people so incredibly well.
How do we do that? Because I think this is a narrative for a lot of businesses. I think a lot of people realize they could do things at home, but actually the value of being together was that added value that we never appreciated. You know, have you got some thoughts of how you think you'll impose or apply something specific to it?
Yeah, I think that you're exactly right. I think that, you know, we've learned a new way of working at home, and it's not always bad. And I think that the flexibility for staff is really positive, and to be able to have choice and be able to have a bit more work-life balance and be able to dictate that to a certain extent is really positive. But I think I would never want to go down the road of always being at home working. It's certainly, I think when you're a front-facing service, when you work with people, you can't do that.
I think that's been our biggest wrestle, and we've seen that in our staff as well, that, you know, we are frontline and coffee shops, so we exist to get people to gather and meet, and our whole sort of philosophy was because we felt people weren't meeting and gathering enough, you know, stripped out of society, we've lost some of our connectivity spaces. And but we're struggling with that because there's a balance there. On one hand, people have enjoyed being at home, and we're getting into this sort of takeaway or bring it to me culture. On the other hand, you're trying to say to people, no, actually, you do need to come out and engage with each other and find the delights of human contact.
Absolutely. And I think that's the really interesting thing that we have with the young people that we work with, because obviously for an autistic young person, actually working at home is a really good environment, because actually the stress of a workplace, the social bit of a workplace, can be the bit that really creates anxiety and worry. But the flip side of that is somebody's in real danger of becoming completely socially isolated, you know, and people need people, whatever that looks like. But it looks different for each of us. And, you know, I used to be, in my younger days, certainly a social butterfly, was always out, you know, lots of friends, lots of it. But actually, as I get older, I really see the benefit in having a close, small circle of friends, and that spending time by myself is okay. And it's about balance, isn't it? But it's about what's right for you. And I guess that whatever we decide moving forward, and however we change that landscape of connectivity, will be different, and everybody will have those different needs within that.
What's the feedback been on from parents of these kids? How do the kids handle COVID?
Well, what was really interesting is when it very happened at the very start, and I remember having a conversation with Matthew and saying, you know, how are you doing with this? And he went, Mum, I was built for isolation, you know, because for him it's been absolutely perfect.
This is perfect.
You know, he can speak to, he's got a small group of friends that they are very close. He can speak to them online, but actually he can stay in his safe space of his bedroom. He can stay in his comfort zone. He finds school and the school environment quite stressful, so actually he could do the academic bit that he loves in a place that he was really comfortable. So actually we've heard that a lot of our young people are saying, actually, this is great, this is exactly what I need. The flip side of that is you know, autistic young people are just like any young person, and there are some that are just like, you know, I need out of here, I need to run about and do whatever I need to do as a child. And, you know, so I guess it's the same, it's different for them. But yeah, I would say there's definitely been a lot more, specifically with the teenagers and the older clientele that we work with. There's definitely a feeling of, I'm okay with this. It's you neurotypical people that are struggling with this.
Safe space was an interesting word to use. I mean, we found in our sort of journey with you guys that from those early days when the groups used to come and we used to cafe for you guys and get teaching them skills. And what was lovely about that is afterwards, parents used to tell the kids to wait here if they were running late. You know, we became part of an accepted space, and certainly we found, you know, certainly autism, they don't like strangers, they don't like some of them don't like sort of domain that they can't sort of compute into a space in their lives. But over the years, we found like even some of them who are now probably teens, early 20s, you know, who this is still a safe space. This is still a parent saying, look, just wait for us there. How does a community create safe spaces for autistic families?
Yeah, I think it's quite a tough one, and we're probably lucky that we're a small city and that we are more able to do that. But I think it's about understanding, and it's about being aware of autism, but understanding it and understanding the importance of that to an autistic individual, and certainly that ability to create somewhere that's non-judgmental, that's welcoming, that if someone is displaying signs of anxiety or, you know, maybe not looking very social or maybe appearing quite rude because they're nervous and worried, and that non-judgmental space is so important.
What are the traits to look out for?
I think it's so hard. It's so hard to pinpoint because everybody is so different. But I think that I suppose by creating a community space and by creating a safe space, you get to know people. And it's when you get to know someone that you start to know where they're being different. And that's where it comes back to what I was saying about, you know, understanding the individual. And that's the important bit. And until you can kind of understand that and know the person, then it can be quite hard to pick up on there's not, unfortunately, a list of traits that we could say, you know, they will do A, B, C, and look out for that, and that will always happen. So I guess that's probably some of the mystery and complexity of autism, because it is just people. It's just individual people, and it's just about a different way of processing, and it's just a different way of approaching something or dealing with a situation. But actually, if you think about us as a human race, we all deal with things and approach things differently.
Just want to open it up a little more. I mean, until Matthew was born, you had no interest in autism, and now it's become your life. What was your interest? Where were you heading before?
Gosh, so I had kind of, after uni, I moved to the big lights of the city, and do you know, I didn't really know what I wanted.
Where are you from? I mean,
well, I've moved around a lot just purely because of my dad's career when I was younger. So my family's originally from Perth, right, and that's why we're back here. So I didn't really know what. And after a false start of doing a degree that I thought I should do, which was business, I changed and did psychology. And actually ended up doing something that I wanted to do rather than what people told me would get me a job. And even after that, I had no clue. So I kind of fell into lots of different things, recruitment, and worked in a lot of different areas. And then after moving back up to Perth, after I'd had Matthew, and I ended up working in criminal justice randomly and loved it. And realised that actually for me, it was about people. And I wanted to do something that was being with people, whatever that might look like. And I think that seeing the challenges, I then moved, after working in criminal justice, moved into working in homelessness. And that was probably one of the most rewarding jobs, toughest jobs. And I still take my hat off to my colleagues that I still am in touch with. For doing it on a daily basis, but just watching people's journeys, seeing people achieve, and helping people to achieve goals. I think that's must have always been at my core.
Yeah, one of your drivers.
Yeah, so I think it's just doing that in a different way now. But I guess I've got the personal attachment now.
one of the themes that we're trying to pick up in this podcast is this whole idea of altruism, the idea that you don't, it's not about, and yes, we create a universe and a structure that all of us, we're all in, but actually some of our greatest joys are in those spaces where it's not about us, where we're doing something for someone else, and that's when we discover who we are. What's your advice for some young people right now who just haven't a clue what they're up to or what they want to do?
Gosh, don't worry about it. Try different things. It doesn't. I always think that, and I'm going through it just now with Matthew at the age of 17. He's making his uni choices for next year, and he's getting so hung up with, but this is what I want to do for a career. And actually, there's a bit of me that thinks, we put pressure on young people too early, because it's 16, 17, 18. Who knows? Unless you've got a very fixed idea of, medicine, law, accountancy, whatever it might be, but for most people, the majority of young people, it's, well, try it and see. So I guess don't rush. Try things, take opportunities as they come up. And if the plan A doesn't work out, it's okay. There's always a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. Yeah, I think I'm on plan Y. Yeah. So, I think, don't panic. Don't necessarily be in a rush to get it right, because the right thing will eventually find you.
Fine. Okay, that's nice. And if you were given £1 million today, what issue, what handbag, where would you put that money?
I would put it absolutely into supporting inclusion. Inclusion for me is a huge thing. I'm a huge believer in inclusion, and I think the biggest frustration of inclusion is the fact that it's under-resourced. It's one of these things that often we all want to do the right thing, and everybody wants the right thing, and everybody wants that inclusion. But actually, to be truly included, we need to have people who are aware, trained, understanding, and it properly resourced to suit each individual.
Talking about inclusion, you talk about autistic inclusion in data life.
I think inclusion across the board. I think inclusion there's so many marginalised groups that, yes, I specifically am aware of autism, because that's what I do. And it's not just about children and young people. Autistic children and young people will become autistic adults. So it's about inclusion in the workplace. Only 16% of autistic adults are in full-time employment nationally. And that's horrendous when we know so many have achieved academically. So you have lots of, amazing ability and skills and knowledge out there that we're not getting to see in the community. And that for me is really sad.
How do we address that? Because when I think about how our workspaces are structured, so much is about social engagement we have. And yet that is one of the greatest hindrances of an autistic person, that those mechanisms aren't as fluid.
Yeah,
as
and I don't
be
necessarily think it's a hindrance. Sometimes it's just about the environment being right. So it's not necessarily that an autistic person doesn't want to be a team player, because actually I know lots and lots of autistic team players. It's more about, if it's not right, somebody being aware and helping to be flexible and change. And I think that's the difficulty. And I think because the stereotypes of autism still stick, we're in 2020 and we still hear it. And often when we first work with an employer, for example, they'll be like, oh, we don't necessarily have the time to support an autistic. And it's like, well, what do you need time for? If we get the basics right, and if we think about the environment and what they need, and actually how they might present, just because someone doesn't want to have a chat about your weekend over the kettle in the staff room on a Monday morning doesn't mean you have to do anything to support that. That might just mean that person doesn't see value in that, but would see lots of value in you saying, right, Friday, 1 o'clock, you and I are just going to go for a coffee on our own just to catch up and see where you're at and what's happening. So it's not necessarily more time intensive to have an autistic employee. It's not necessarily about changing an entire workplace for an autistic employee. It's like any employee, you're flexed to their needs.
It's just a really strange aversion we have for change. You know, when I think about even past 50 years, you know, had from women in the workplace to, you know, Black or Asian people in the workplace, and now we talk about it's like we find reasons to resist it, and yet we've done it. We've done it in pretty much anybody and everybody. Yet we still think, oh no, you know. And I have to admit, I probably have resistance as well. And I've worked I've worked on special needs schools as an architect, and sometimes, you know, if I think about coffee shop and I think, oh, is it going to be a safety issue? Is it customer relationship so big that what a good habit, or what should employers know? What are good sort of traits to build into employment, really?
I think employers need to just work with individuals. Try and not think about the autism, try and think about the individual. Because actually what we know is there are a lot of employers and a lot of organisations out there who actually really buy into the strengths of having an autistic employee. And, you know, tend to be in the tech field and that kind of thing. But actually, you will get someone who is completely loyal. You will get someone who will take their break when they say they need to take the break, and they won't take that extra 5 minutes. You will get someone who will be detail focused, who will manage to work through a list of tasks very quickly, very diligently. The flip side of that is, as with all of our employees, sometimes you might need to do a little bit of emotional support. You might need to flex a little bit, or you might need to understand that depending on what's happening in other areas, you might not get the same productivity each day at that level. And I guess what I would say, if any employers are listening, is seek advice. You know, that's what we do. We go in and we train with employers, and although we give them the here's autism and this is what autism is about, actually before we do work placements with a young person, for example, we say, right, this is young person A, and here's what they need from you. So it's not about their autism, it's about what they need. And we do that for everyone, or we should be doing that for everyone. So yeah, don't think about the autism, think about the person.
You obviously have a huge amount of resources that you guys have. How do people get in touch with you? How do people get in touch with the organisation?
Yeah, so people can email us. They can find our details on our website, which is perthautismsupport.org.uk. Our social media is very active, so people can get hold of us there, or they can give us a call, pop in and see us. Don't actually pop in and see us at the moment because you're not allowed with COVID. But yeah, get in touch. Just get in touch. No question's a stupid question. And it might just be that you just need a bit of advice and a bit of confidence. What we are seeing is we're seeing a huge uplift in training that people are doing, which we were surprised about just now, because actually it's much easier for workplaces to get teams online together. And we've kind of changed our approach in training where it doesn't have to be that face-to-face. You know, we can be flexible in it. So yeah, we train everyone from, small local businesses with just a couple of staff members right up to multinational. So, there's a place and a way to allay fears, because I think often that's what it is. And it's not fear of autism, it's fear of getting it wrong. People don't want to get it wrong for people, and that's okay, but just be brave and try it, because some of the most amazing people in my life are autistic, and we have seen so many success stories.
I think it says a lot. I mean, we've noticed just with your team, it's a culture you've created there. I remember when we were working on the special needs school, Fairview. I mean, it was just such a beautiful project to work. Everyone was just, the issue was bigger than all of us. So whether it was a contractor or a designer, client team of kids, we just felt there was something worthy that was happening. And I think I've certainly seen this in your team. They come in and chirpy, or they tell us if they've had a rubbish day, or and I think that's part. You're sort of setting a template yourself in the culture. What next? Where are you going to go with this next?
Goodness knows. Goodness knows. I think COVID has been a bit of as I was saying earlier, a bit of a stopping point for us, just to recharge and restock and think about where we go. And the next 5 years, 10 years, it's exciting. It's exciting. I think we've seen a huge change in service provision over the last 10 years. I mean, there was nothing in place when we came along to start. There have previously been organisations, and there are certainly organisations that support additional support needs, but nothing autism specific. And I think that we've seen such a change in attitude, in community, in awareness over the last 10 years that it's about building on that, and it's about changing the awareness to the acceptance now. And understanding. And yeah, we're excited. We're excited that so many people are wanting to be involved with us and, saying, actually, this could be something good. And it's starting to move away from that's just quite difficult and I don't want to deal with it, to actually, this could be a game changer. And, we're excited because in 10 years' time, all of our 8-year-olds that are with us now will be 18 and going into the big bad world, and all the 18-year-olds that are with us now will be away doing their adult life, and I'm excited to see what they achieve and where they go. And I think that'll be the best bit over the next wee while is seeing the benefit and the difference that we have made.
You got a story that you could share with us? Anyone specific? I mean, you've obviously talked about Matthew, but is it something else? Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, we've got lots of young people that have done amazing things. We've got young people who, I think back to, years ago when a particular young person joined us and was so socially anxious that when he came along to one of our groups, he couldn't let his parents leave. And for the first wee while, they had to stay in the group. And eventually, parents managed to leave him and he did things independently, didn't join in, sat at the side of the group, but did it on his own, to the point that it was within our youth theatre programme. And 2 years later, he was on the stage prompting his peers with lines for the showcase that they'd written. He's now an adult who is living pretty much unsupported, is working, is living independently in his flat, and to see that growth and that journey. Now, absolutely, we're not taking the credit for that. He did all the hard work. But what we did do was give him the place where he could develop in the way he needed to and build his confidence and independence in the way that he needed to, with staff and peers around him that got it. And I think that's the key. We've talked about community quite a lot, and actually it's the same for our young people, and I think back to, and just talking about Matthew again, just because I can, because he's 9, he'll talk to me about his two closest friends are both autistic, and he'll say to me, I don't understand why they do some of the things they do sometimes, but it's okay because they don't understand why I do some, and we just know it's because of your autism, and that's okay. And it's that finding your tribe, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that space where you can be you, where you don't have to have the mask on, you don't have to try and fit in because you don't want to stand out, And I think that that's such a powerful message to give any young person. That it's okay to be different and it's okay to stand out, but the culture of teenage and the culture of school and growing up doesn't allow that to happen very easily.
Right. So there may be someone out there listening to this podcast, one or two people, my mum, but someone's saying there's nothing where I am, child, my uncle, close relationship with just a person, and there's nothing. So where do they begin?
And I think that that's probably, it was the whole reason that certainly I started PAS was because of that very reason. And I'm not saying that not everybody has the time, the energy or the inclination to go and do that. But I think where we are in society, where we do have the opportunity of online, we don't have that just the social circles that we know and that are around us. So reach out online. There's lots of good. There's lots of maybe not so good, but certainly lots of good resources online. And
anything particular?
I would always go to the big places and look for information from them. So National Autistic Society, Scottish Autism, certainly they have a big wider spread. But pick up the phone to us. Actually, we've got a huge network of autism support throughout Scotland. We're actually working on a project just now with the Scottish Government that is nationally based. So we are working with the autistic community across Scotland. So, there might be things out there that people don't know about. And I think the other thing is, if there is nothing, don't be scared to go to groups or community places that your young person or your adult relative would like to be, and talk to them and just say, they really want to be involved, but there are going to be maybe some barriers to it. So how do you feel about us working to break them down? Don't
accept the segregation. Absolutely.
And I think that comes back to what I was saying about the inclusion piece, that very often we can try to include, but what happens invariably, because it isn't necessarily resourced or supported properly, we, without meaning to, end up excluding.
Corral people.
Yeah.
No, Angie, this is fab. I've really enjoyed this, and I just hope the whole series of these podcasts is to just share people's stories and be able to realize we're not alone, and realize that others have gone through similar patterns. I can edit this out if you want, but one of the things that really impressed me about you a few years ago actually is when you lost a phenomenal amount of weight. And I think you just walked in and I was like, oh my goodness, who is this person? Because I don't know how much you lost, but and I suppose that's just a reflection of the sort of can do that you have in your mind. I mean, what triggered that whole process?
I think it was probably a number of things. I think there was probably the need and desire to make sure that I was in the healthiest, best place for Matthew. I think that recognition that, he needs us and will continue to need us. Hopefully not to the same level, but will continue to need us. My dad passed away, and then I knew my health wasn't great. And so, that was probably the trigger for change, was I need to be here. I need to be here for PAS and for my team and for all the amazing kids that we support. But equally so, I needed to be here for my husband and son and my mum, who I was supporting through, after losing my dad, who, it was challenging. So I think there was lots of little things that kind of built up. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm definitely that person of, I'm doing that, so let's just do it.
It's like a flick switch, I think, over on Christmas, and you obviously decided it. And was there any specific day something that clicked, or is it just?
No, I don't remember. I don't recall it being a switch flicking. It maybe appear like that to the outside, but I think no, I'd probably procrastinated about it for a long time before I actually did it. To be fair,
no, well, you lead by doing it yourself. No, well, Angie, thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Thank you for this time. Is there? I may have said this, but is there an email or a contact that people get in touch with?
Yeah, so our website is perthautismsupport.org.uk, and the email address to get in touch with us is info@perthautismsupport.org.uk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this chat and would like to maybe join us, or someone who's got an interesting story to share, get in touch. Podcast@blendcoffee.co.uk. Well, traveller, till next time.